Hello, I'm Mugendi Zoka.
Hello, I'm Maita Spronken. Today we are interviewing 3 Chinese people to know their views on press freedom in China. What you think of the way China is represented in the Western media? What do you think of how China is portrayed in the Western media?
I think in the Western media just treats us unfairly, I would say. Like, it's true, at home it's always about the positive side about the country on television, but here we, through this Olympic blame thing and the Tibet protests, I truly feel that the Western media just see one side of the whole problem, and it claims that it's the true side, but that's not true. But I mean, for ordinary Western people, they might not always think when they are watching such televisions, and they might just believe in what's on TV. But I don't think the true side is reported here by West.
What was the difference you have experienced or seen between Chinese and Western media?
As I have said, most of the stuff on the Chinese media are positive side of the country. But here, when I'm studying here, I always hope that there's no news on TV about China, because once there is news, almost 90% there is negative news about us. Like when we are developing our countries, when we have high growth rate, Western media would criticize, yeah, it's a threat to the West. And then when like this type, the protest thing, when many Chinese students abroad who did the anti-protest, but then the Western media still like show the other side of the protests, but didn't give enough attention to the anti-protests.
And I would agree with her, because I think how they portray here is pretty one-sided. I mean, what they say here is not. I'm not saying it's wrong, but just why don't you also report the other side? For instance, once I saw a news on BBC.com, and they have the huge headline saying that China now have become the country that has the most people get killed in the prison, like the death penalty. But I was wondering, why don't you say this time we have 1.3 billion people? Because here it matters. But why here you do not say that? And also, when we implement one-child policy, then you say we are against human rights. But when we do not have one-child policy, then you say we are killing the earth with growing population. So I think what they present here is pretty one-sided, but it's not wrong. Just they didn't pick the other side of the story.
Last time you gave a quite interesting example of CNN. Would you like to repeat that?
Yeah, as also here I would like to take example of Tibet, because I think you two already see the picture on YouTube that when CNN was reporting the events or the riots, I would say, in Tibet, they cut off the picture and they describe the picture as the army car is hitting or was hitting the protesters. But on the other side of the picture, where they cut off, is the picture that those people are violently attacking the car. But they cut off the right side of the picture and present the left side of the picture and saying what is not true of this picture. And they just make a story themselves. So I think this is a typical example to prove that the media here is also kind of biased. And that even if they don't know something, or if they don't know something, they might just make up a story. And even they know they are violently attacking, but they don't want to show this side. So they just on purpose cut off the picture and show the other side of the story.
It is a common belief or the opinion in the West that it's Chinese government or China that's censoring media to the Chinese people. What do you think of this?
Well, the censoring, do you mean the political censoring or the entertainment side?
Censoring of political materials and certain subjects that are not allowed to be seen by the Chinese people.
Yet before I like before I come to study here, I might agree with you and would say something not satisfied with the way how the government is doing it. But after 2 years of studying here, I think, especially after recent events about the Chinese thing, I think it's quite necessary for the government to censor the media. Like, I think Chinese people as a whole, many people are not well educated, and many are still very poor, and they are kind of can be easily manipulated. So, if the media and the political materials are totally free, I think they can, once they have anything against the government, they can be easily used by some people, some group, and do maybe things not good to the whole country. I think in general Chinese people, yeah, in a word, are easily manipulated.
Okay.
And I think the news or the media in China is, to a certain extent, it is censored, but I would say it is necessary. And also, it's not a problem of China. I think it's every country have a certain degree of media you cannot just present in public or in TV. And I think for the Western media here, for instance, BBC, they also have some censorship. For instance, when the Olympic film was in London, and there were protesters from Tibet, also protested from China, they're pro-China and against Tibet. But what they show on BBC, they cut off, or they do not show the side of Chinese protesters, they only show the side of Tibetan protesters. That is also censorship. So I think for every country, there's a certain level of censorship. But it's the same for China. If there's some sensitive topic or the topic which is not good for the social stability, I think it's necessary to censor it. So I would say certain level of censorship is necessary and it's good as a whole for the government and also for the people.
So we have heard your views now on the situation in China, on the media in China. And would you say that the situation is good as it is right now, or do you think it would be good if there would change something?
I think right now it is good for the current situation. Like, it's not very unstable, but the current situation is not very favorable to the whole country. So I think at this moment it should be kept as it is. But I think in the long run, more freedom because as people are getting rich and getting more well educated, and I think it's more reasonable to become a bit more free in general and gradually, I think.
And I think the press freedom in China should be developed in the future. But also, I also would like to say that some Western media here do not always put the same standard when they are judging or when they are viewing the Chinese media, because we are still developing, and we just developed after the opening up policy for 30 years. We're still developing. So we are trying to, merge with the West world and try to also give people more freedom, also press freedom. So do not push too much, and we are doing our own way. And I'm a generation who's experienced the change, because I was born in 1980s, and that is the time that when China opened up the country. So I can experience we do have much more freedom and also more human rights than people would think. But I do think in the future the press freedom should be more developed in the future.